Hey Lisa,
Hello, Mr. Ross Rosenberg. How are you?
I'm great. It's finally great to do this together. How long have we been talking about this?
Quite some time now. I'm really excited about it myself.
So let's have our viewers get to know each other a little bit. Since some of your viewers don't know me and some of my viewers don't know you,
hmm
let's give an introduction or a brief background sketch.
I'm a certified life coach, and I started off my practice primarily working with adult children of alcoholics because that was so near and dear to my heart. My mother and father are ACOAs, and when my life started spiraling out of control, I went into psychotherapy, and it was there that I discovered that I was severely codependent and also depressed, and that the issues that I was having in my life were related to being raised by unrecovered adult children of alcoholics. My father was also a narcissist, my mom, definitely more codependent. And my life started to make sense when I realized that I had been affected by alcoholism, which
Hmm.
sparked my interest tremendously. And I dug my teeth into codependency in general, and then ultimately ended up becoming a certified life coach. And like I said, focusing on ACOAs, but then branching out, which it's just been a wonderful ride. I'm also a best-selling author times five, so that's also fun. Just
Yes, I
saying.
was going to say, hey, what about your book?
Yeah.
And what's your book called?
My first book is called The Road Back to Me. The second book is My Road Beyond the Codependent Divorce.
Hmm.
My third book is Loving the Self Affirmations, Healing from Unconscious Codependent Belief Systems, then Quantum Tools to Help You Heal Your Life Now. And then the latest book is also an affirmation book. There are 90 days of affirmations and Loving the Self Affirmations, Healing from Childhood Brainwashing.
Wow, you need to teach me how to write so much. I can barely write one book, and then I'm done for like 3 years. Well, a little bit of background. I'm Ross Rosenberg, and I've been a therapist, a psychotherapist for about 28 years, and have been working on trauma and codependency before I even knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've not only am I a therapist, but I also own a counseling center in Arlington Heights, Illinois. I specialize in addictions, trauma. I'm a certified drug and alcohol addictions counselor, a certified sex addiction counselor, and a couple other things. But a lot of people know me because of my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, Why We Love People Who Hurt Us, and my trainings and my YouTube channel. And,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's kind of interesting how our paths have come together or intersected. I keep hearing your name from people who are Facebook friends or who are connected to me by YouTube, and they keep talking about this Lisa Romano. You need to watch her videos, and and I watch them, and I go, wow, this is a woman who really gets it. My intuition about you is that you really care about your viewers, the people with whom you connect, your dear ones,
My
and
dear one.
and I think your work is just fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. As is yours. Through my recovery, I came across your work as well. And what I appreciated about your work, which was so different than a lot of people, was that I knew, perhaps intuitively, that you knew what you were talking about. Something about you resonated within me that told me this man has not only is he a psychotherapist, you know, but he knows he's been through this. And that really resonated with me, which is why I continue to watch your videos and read your book. I hear it often that people are in therapy for 10, 20, 30 years, and they watch your video or my video, and they get more out of a
Right.
20-minute video than they do out of all the years in psychotherapy, perhaps with a therapist who isn't really, skilled in this area. So I'm really, really happy about this joint venture that we're having.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because you know I've been doing therapy. I've been in therapy
Mhm.
on both sides of the couch
Right?
for
Absolutely.
well over 28 years. But one of the things that I notice as a therapist is that I get a lot of clients who come to see me and say, well, I'm codependent, and of course all good therapists and coaches do a kind of a background history. And I come to find out that they've been in therapy for like 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
and never really understood the concept of codependency. and it always hit me, how could you be in therapy for 10 years and not get better?
Yeah.
And that idea stuck in my head, and it started to like really make me think about myself and the fact that I myself, come from, as you had mentioned, a dysfunctional family, narcissistic father and codependent mother, and had all the challenges growing up. But I started to think that there's something deeper that people are missing that really accounts for the codependency, and codependency is a symptom. And if you don't hit the primary causes,
Right.
you can be in therapy your whole life. What's been your experience with that?
I agree. I was severely, and that's why I appreciate what you're trying to do with the self-love deficit disorder. Totally, codependency is the result of not loving yourself. Absolutely. And not being loved and not having your parents mirror back a sense of self to you. Where I come from, it's impossible in my mind to love yourself if you're not connected to the self. If
Right.
if your psyche has been turned on to the idea that there is a self inside of me, and true, codependents are taught that their validation is outside of themselves, that they have to seek approval. So the idea that, you grow up in a home where you're invisible and you don't feel loved, absolutely. But the codependent mind is one that it keeps them seeking, a codependent keeps seeking a sense of love and a sense of validation and a sense of acceptance outside of self. And this
Right.
can go on until you're 70 or 80 years old.
Truth be told, people bring it to their graves. My poor mom, God rest her soul, her dying days, she was asking about us. She was telling us not to buy her flowers, but buy her fruit baskets so she can give it to the nursing staff to take care of her. And she was out there buying carpet for my dad so he'd have a nice house. And I got to see my poor mom die as a codependent. And it drives me, it drives me, it motivates me, it fills me with passion to understand that there are people out there that don't know what's wrong with them,
Yeah.
and have been feeling broken or defective, and your talk about self and being invisible, and my talk about self-love, it seems that we're starting something really big out there.
I agree.
What type of feedback have you gotten from some of your readers, some of your fans?
I am humbled every morning. I start my days very, very early because I get so many emails, and I try to answer every single one.
Oh, really? That's
I try.
impressive. Wow.
I really try because, Ross, when yesterday, my husband and I were talking about how desperate I was in codependency.
Right.
I started to suffer from panic disorder. I mean, that was an extension of all of it: the lack of self-love, the lack of self, trying to seek validation, beating the dead horses,
Right.
waiting for this pat on the back or this moment where, someone would say to me, "Lisa, you are enough."
Right.
And it never came. And then when I started to speak up and tell people how upset I was called selfish.
And to me, that's the horrible, almost abusive pronouncement that the narcissist put on the child who's going to become a codependent. That if you want something for yourself, you are upsetting the narcissist, and it's a projection. You are selfish, but really, it's not about the poor child who's learning about themselves. It's really about the person. And you grow up feeling, you grew up and I grew up feeling that if you wanted something for yourself, that either something's going to happen badly or you're not going to get what you want.
Or you were wrong for even wanting. I felt wrong for wanting. I felt wrong for needing. I felt so selfish for wanting more than the liver and onions that I hated for dinner. How dare I not like the liver and onions? I was this most selfish child.
And to me, that's a beautiful example. But by the way, I like liver and onions. But it's a beautiful, but 99% of the world doesn't. But it's a perfect example that because people who are healthy, normal people. And by the way, normal means having problems,
Yes,
but having the internal resources or using external resources to get help for them. So
absolutely.
normal and healthy people have children because they want to give the child love, care, and the child is a gift
Yeah.
just because of who they are.
Amen.
But the parents that we had, the parent that you're talking about, made it about them. So if you don't like liver and onions, that means there's something wrong with them. And they, narcissists can never deal with that. So they're always blaming other people, and shame on them or shame on my parents for making us feel bad for just being normal kids. And I'm assuming that you kind of brought that into adulthood like I did.
Totally. Oh my goodness, absolutely. And I mean, I married my first husband. A large part of the reason was because my parents liked him. They loved him. He made them laugh, he kicked their butts, really, seriously.
The charming
know,
narcissist, yeah.
Oh, he was an ass kisser, Ross. And I wasn't, not really, especially as I got a little bit older. But I still had this, I have to please my father, I have to please my mother thing going on.
Right.
Totally below the veil of consciousness.
Right, well,
I was very much still stuck in the old pattern, feeling like I needed their validation. And yes, and that's why it was so hard when I was going through my marital problems. It was so hard for me to say to anyone, I'm not happy.
right.
Because how dare you not be happy?
Right. Because now, the narcissistic parent, if you tell them they're not happy, the first thing they think about is, you're telling me I'm a bad parent. Isn't that messed up?
Totally. I think also was my parents lived such a life of sacrifice.
Right.
They lived to survive. It was not about happiness. So
Right.
when I said I'm not happy, it was like, how dare you
Exactly.
come into this world and think that you have a right to be happy?
But-
My father actually said that to me.
Okay.
Who said you have to be happy?
But I'm going to analyze your father just like I'm going to analyze a comment that you said about your ex-husband. So your father saying, how dare you be ungrateful? But
Yeah.
really, what it was a narcissistic injury. He heard you say that you're a bad father, and he reversed it on you by saying, you're lucky that I even brought you into this world and I feed you. And what does that do to you? What does that do to any child? How did you feel?
I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt unworthy. I felt like there was something absolutely wrong with me feeling the way I felt.
And my father, who rarely spent time with me, and I had to work really hard for him to spend time with me, made me feel like there was something fundamentally wrong, and that made me feel like I had to work really, really hard to get someone to love me and see me and respect me. And there's no coincidences that I grew up as this adult, this codependent adult, that has been super, super hungry for compliments and affirmation. But you said something interesting about your ex-husband. You called him an ass kisser, and so I want to throw something out there and tell me if it fits. He wasn't an ass kisser. He was an emotional manipulator. He was, and I don't even know him. I just know the type that he kissed people's asses so they would love him, and once they loved him, the ass kissing was reversed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did that fit?
The minute they expected him to live up to what he presented,
Exactly.
the minute they expected him to be that nice guy that he was tried so hard to convince them he was gone. He was gone.
And that's the what I would call the covert narcissist or the secretive narcissist that presents this altruistic, nice, kind persona. And I know you have a video, a very good one, and I have a video. And as soon as they get people to like them and love them, and they can control them, they turn.
Yes.
And it's no secret, especially since I talk about it in my videos and my book. I've been married 3 times, and to two women who were really on the very, very unhealthy side. But it wasn't until I did my own therapy because I didn't want to keep making that mistake. I was humiliated. I felt broken. Here I'm a therapist, and I'm marrying these crazy women, or allegedly crazy. But
be careful, Ross.
in fact, when I wrote my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, when I talked about my ex-wives, I had a lawyer read the 2 pages, and he made some very subtle word choice changes, which I thought was funny. But after the second divorce, I thought to myself, I was in so much shame and so much humiliation that I'd keep falling in love with these people that I loved so much that would hurt me, and it hit me because of because of my therapy and a book I read by Alice Miller, The Drama of the Gifted Child, is that it's about me.
Yeah.
And I keep choosing the wrong person. I'm the one that has a broken picker. And that changed my life. And that path on recovery has kind of got me to where I am now. And it seems like you and I have very similar paths in not only what happened to us, but as we understand ourselves, we're able to help others.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that it's so important that, I consider what you do healing, and I consider what I do healing. So when I say healer, that's what I mean. But it's so important that people who are in a therapeutic or a healing situation, position, that when they're helping someone, it's so much more beneficial that you understand the problem.
Right.
People need to know that you get it. I went to 3 therapists before I found my psychotherapist, and the 3 therapists, I walked out of there like, what just happened? I did not feel heard. I did not feel seen. I did not think that they understood my situation at all. And here, after just a few minutes with this psychotherapist who said, is there any alcoholism in your family?
Right. And no one had asked up to that point, didn't even ask.
In 45 seconds, this man asked me that question, which led to where I am today. Genius, because he had been there.
Well, there's a saying by a famous psychotherapy theorist, Abraham Maslow, and I'm going to screw it up a little bit, but it's to the man who has a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I think that speaks really loudly about we can only see in others what we can recognize in ourselves, and we can't see in others what we are blind to in ourselves. And so if therapists who haven't done their own work, their own recovery, are going to be oblivious of what is codependency and how can it be connected to other things other than surface level issues. We were working with people who have been sometimes hurt, not by the bad doings of therapists, but by the ignorance or just them being oblivious.
Yeah, it's so important. I have so many clients. I just did a seminar in Long Island, and there were about 15 people there. Every single person there had been in and out of therapy for a minimum of 10 years. Minimum of 10 years. And some experienced triangulation, where the therapist favored the narcissist in the situation. And the codependent walked out of there feeling like completely violated and frustrated, and then was called out. Well, see, you're getting excited. You're not in control. Because I sense what's happening here. I'm being picked on, and he's manipulating you, and it's just so much easier to call out the person that's reactive than to understand what's really happening below the veil and the manipulation of a really good covert narcissist.
And actually, your point is really important. And what we're saying together is that, first of all, if you're in therapy for 10 years and the problem's not solved, that's a problem. And it is a big red flag. And no one should be in therapy for 10 years unless they have a chronic mental illness, because therapy by nature, or coaching, or some of the healing services that other people do, should be problem-oriented. And that's what drives my passion, is to not only figure out, write about, and create techniques that can solve the problem. My codependency treatment never lasts beyond 3 years, And people see results in 6 months because I'm dealing with the foundational issues, the trauma, the shame, the loneliness. And I know because one of my clients works with you, and she says you connect to the very same issues.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But this is why I think it's so important that we get this information out there. And I also think that a lot of people think that because they're seeing a therapist, that they're in a, there's this idea, there's this hierarchy. She's the therapist or he's the therapist. And then they're intimidated to ask the therapist certain questions about, what do you know about codependency? Have you experienced it yourself?
Right.
Have you recovered from it? There's this intimidation factor. And I think it's really, really important, especially you being a clinician and a psychotherapist yourself, encouraging people, ask the questions.
Ask the
If
questions.
you're not comfortable, then you're not comfortable. Own that. That means something.
Well,
Appreciate how you feel.
Well, I'm going to take it one step further, and is express how you feel to your therapist, even when it's not positive. This has happened to me so many times in my career where I'll make a mistake, and at least I'm told that I make a mistake, and a client will come to me in the beginning of the session, and because we've built this foundation of trust, and they'll say, I'm like really mad at you. And I want to tell you something.
Right.
And when that happens, I get like really happy inside because I know something big is going to happen. And so I listen to them, and they tell me what they think I did wrong, and then I almost respond the same way. I say, well, I have 3 responses, and my first response is, wow, that was great.
Yes.
I love the way that you expressed your anger, especially to me, because sometimes you put me on a pedestal and I don't want you to, and that was fantastic. Thank you. And all of a sudden, you can see like because they're anxious and afraid that I'm going to like yell at them or run away from them and then I said, well, and then the second thing I say, well, this is what I heard you say, and so I paraphrase it, and the third thing I say is, I talk about what I think of what they say, and sometimes it includes an apology.
Right.
Sometimes it includes I don't agree, but it always is a conversation.
Right.
And what has been your experience in situations like that with your own clients?
I actually love it when it doesn't happen that often. Just saying, but
They never get mad at you.
no, but
Oh, you're
yeah,
a lot sweeter and kinder. I'm a little bit more rougher around the edges.
But it has happened where I've been, a client has challenged me, and that's the first thing I do too, is because I understand, because I bring it back to childhood. What did this person need in childhood that they didn't get? They were not given the permission to say, Mommy, I'm mad at you, or Daddy, I'm angry. They weren't allowed to express especially negative emotions. So for me, where I come from as a coach is I'm so happy that they found the courage to be able to say out loud, I'm not happy with something that was said, or I'm not happy with the way things are going. And again, like you, congratulations, that was awesome that you were able to express that. That's so cool. Now let's talk about what we have to talk about, But that's huge for someone to be able to say that.
And we become part of our job, and I teach my therapists this. A part of what we do is, in a sense, it's reparenting.
Absolutely.
These folks you and I did not have loving, unconditionally loving and accepting parents. And how do you love yourself? How do you heal those wounds if you can't learn how to be yourself in a safe environment? And the way you handled it, I can only imagine makes them feel warm and safe, and they can just be themselves.
Absolutely. That's the goal. I feel as children, we needed to feel seen. I always tell my clients this great story, because I made a lot of mistakes with my first 2 children because I wasn't healed yet. I was codependent probably. I was so codependent probably until became aware of it when my son was about 11.
Right.
But by the time I had my 3rd child, I was pretty good. And I remember she was about 4 or 5 years old, and she came out of her room and she said, Mommy, I'm so mad at you. And I said, you are? And I knew I had to validate her.
Right.
And I said, why are you mad at me? And she said, because you said I was going to have ice cream today, and now it's 8 o'clock. I have to go to sleep, and you're not going to let me have ice cream. Validate her that. I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I would be angry too.
Right.
You're right. Mommy did say you were going to have ice cream, and she
Right.
forgot. That's my fault. And then I apologized. Unconditional love. I'm
Right.
so sorry. And then resolution. How do you want to fix this? What do you want to do? And
Right.
then we both came up with the idea that we were going to put a note on the kitchen table that tomorrow after school she was going to get her ice cream.
Oh,
And
that's
I said,
sweet.
how do you feel about that? And she says, good. Good night, Mommy. It
Oh.
was gone. The anger was gone.
That's sweet. I got a story that's not so sweet, but represents the same point of validation. So it gives our viewers another angle. My son, I forgot what it was. I mean, he was angry from age 13 to 17, you know, like any teenager. And I remember one day he got really angry at something I said or did, and he went upstairs and he slammed the door really loud.
Right.
And I don't believe that anyone should do that in the family. And so I went up to him and I was mad myself. And by the way, it's okay for parents to be mad at their
Yeah.
children. And I said to him, I said, you know what, Ben? You have the right to be mad at me all the time whenever you want. And I will never argue or take that away from you. But what you don't have the right to do is either destroy property or be disrespectful. I don't want you to like me. I would like for you to like me. I don't want, but when you slam your door, that's not accepted, and you're going to get punished the next time you do it. But the message I gave him, and it probably wasn't his most memorable moment of me as a child, is that he had permission to be angry at me.
And you were okay with it.
And I was, well, I mean, I was okay with it. I accepted it. Of
Yes.
course,
Right.
but I did not accept him to be disrespectful and harmful to property. And what we both did, and was we let our children be seen, unlike we were not and were invisible.
I was going to say that what I've discovered also is that a lot of codependent parents have a difficult time parenting their children because they're so worried about what their children think of them.
Oh yeah.
And so I want my child to like me. I don't want to rock the boat. I need my child's validation. I have to always be so kind to my child.
Right.
And that presents a lot of drama inside families.
Right, and it creates an entitled child, and it sets up the next generation for either a future narcissist or a future codependent. And I know that I am working really hard and have to try to stop the problem in this generation.
Yep.
And it sounds like you've been doing your own work yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm committed. I'm going to do whatever I can while I'm breathing. So I'm really excited about our upcoming webinar on February 13th, just in time for Valentine's Day. I think it's very appropriate.
Yeah. You know, actually, I'm really excited, and I love the title that we came up with.
Yes.
And of course, I don't have it remembered, so I got to read it. It's called "Banishing Fear: Finding Courage to Heal from Codependency or Self-Love Deficit Disorder." I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to do it. To tell the folks a little bit about what you'll be speaking about.
Well, I'm going to be talking about the fact that we do need courage to heal from codependency. A lot of clients will ask me, you know, what do I do with the fear? What do I do with the anxiety? We have to learn to embrace it. We have to learn the tools that we need to face this fear. And that's why we're going to address the idea that courage is what's going to help you be able to learn how to love yourself and eventually heal from codependency.
And I'm going to be talking about the same thing from my own angle, that, you know, we codependents, whether we're recovering or not, or SLDs, as I call them now, people with self-love deficit disorder, is that we carry the shame that has been pushed into us. We've been brainwashed as a child that we are inherently shameful people, and because of that, we're afraid to stand up for ourselves, and it's the fear that locks us down. And I'm going to focus on the elements of fear and how that is how that represents the underlying shame and loneliness that's at the foundation of codependency.
Awesome.
This is great. I look forward to the next video, and And until then, you take care and have a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful New Year.
Yes, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.